and welcome to Construction Executives Professional Education Series. You have joined Cosential's webinar titled 5 Ways the Right CRM Helps Win More Construction Projects. My name is Lauren Pinch, and I am the Editor-in-Chief of Construction Executive Magazine, published by Associated Builders and Contractors, and I will be serving as a moderator of this presentation. As a reminder, we'll send a copy of the slides and the recording of this presentation to everyone within a couple days. Today's webinar will cover how to objectively measure and analyze where your work comes from and which types of leads or projects are the most profitable, how you should capture, categorize, score, and capitalize leads and rumors, how you should categorize your previous projects to ensure your project history is helping you quickly in the field, learn how to map your entire network of suppliers, partners, and personnel and how to use that network to win revenue, and to learn industry best practices in the GoNoGo process and how a CRM should automate that process. As a reminder, if you have any questions that pop into your head during this presentation, please type them in the questions box at your right in GoToWebinar, and we will address them at the end of the presentation during our Q&A session. And now I'd like to introduce and hand off to Andy Hughes. He is the Vice President of Customer Success at Cosential, and he'll discuss both why and how CRMs are being utilized in construction firms and how their usage differs from traditional product-based companies. Andy?
Awesome. Thank you, Lauren. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, very much for your time today. We intend to have a great session today, so highly encourage questions and interaction, so please use the question box. We'd love to set aside some time for the end to make sure that we address all the questions, so we'll make sure we leave plenty of time, so please fill that thing up with questions. We're also giving away a $100 gift card, so as an incentive to hang out with me for our full hour here, at the end of our scheduled time, we will be selecting a random participant who's still on the line to get a $100 gift card from Amazon, so please feel free to hang out with us so you have an opportunity to win the $100 as well as learn a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. A little bit of context to my experience and kind of what qualifies me to have this conversation with you guys today. I actually run 2 teams here at Cosential. I run our sales organization and I also run our customer success team. For the purposes of today's webinar, I'm removing the sales hat, and this is not a Cosential commercial. You know, I work for Cosential, and the things that I've learned about this industry and the adoption and use of CRM systems have been through my experience here at Cosential. But what I'm presenting today is more around what we've learned on the customer success side. So it's around what customers are actually doing, you know, with a CRM system, how they're leveraging it to make more money, to close more deals, to find more projects, and so that's going to be our focus for today. So I think we'll start off just real fast with a high level on who Cosential is and kind of our place in the market. So we've been doing what we do for quite a while. We've been in business for almost 20 years, and we've always focused exclusively on the AEC industry. There's really 2 main use cases that Cosential is built to address, and really any CRM system in the AEC space should understand these 2 things very clearly. The first is on the sales side. So traditional CRM type of functionality as it relates to tracking your leads and your opportunities, knowing who you've talked to at what company, when you need to talk to them again, what projects are on the horizon with that company so that you can adequately forecast and project what kind of revenue your company might be able to make by working with that company. The other use case around Cosential is on the marketing side. And so any CRM system that's built for the AEC industry needs to deeply understand the role of the marketer. And that role is a little bit different than typical industries. The marketers that we work with here at Cosential and the marketers, you know, that are likely on the line now or work for the companies you work for, you know, they're interested in SEO, in lead generation, in brand awareness, but that's not their #1 objective. Their #1 objective typically within these marketing teams is deeply understanding the projects that have already been completed and are being worked on, the personnel, the folks that have done the work, and being able to leverage that information on proposals, resumes, project sheets, and project lists. So if that part of the puzzle isn't clear when you engage with a CRM vendor, if they don't clearly understand the goals of a marketer within your industry, I would say that's your first sign that you're probably talking to a vendor that's not going to lead you to where you want to go. So those are the two use cases that Cosential focuses on. Again, it's CRM functionality for sales-minded people, and then it's proposal coordination and automation for the marketers who are using Cosential. Now, every customer who uses Cosential is an architect, an engineer, a general contractor, or a subcontractor, because Cosential was purpose-built for companies that sell projects and services as opposed to companies that sell products. So, I sell software, I sell products. So typical tools like Salesforce, Microsoft Dynamics, Sugar CRM, some of the names that you've likely heard of are a great fit for me. However, they're most likely not going to be a great fit for your company, and our goal today is to show you why that is and what folks like yourselves should be looking for in a CRM system so that you can realize the benefits of it. Cosential is cloud-based, as our most modern CRM system these days. That gives your users the ability to connect to Cosential or to their CRM system anywhere that they have an internet connection. We also have great mobile tools and highly encourage you to find a vendor that has mobile tools, because as we know, the best salespeople on your team are probably not the guys sitting behind their desk. It's the folks that are out in the field. They're talking to customers, they're going to job sites, to client offices, they're having face-to-face conversations. Those are the types of users who engage in a CRM system, and especially the mobile piece of it. We've got a lot of great customers right now. We have about 1,100 customers that are architects, engineers, and construction firms. And we have 40 of the top 100 E&R contractors. So, Cosential scales up to some of the biggest organizations. We also work with 5-person shops. So, the problems that we solve are not necessarily unique to huge companies or to small companies. It's really any company who's thinking about, how do we get better? How do we grow? How do we find more projects? And how do we start to shift the fact that most of our business comes from the same customers over and over to finding more net new business, more net new relationships, and using a CRM system to start to increase that part of your business is a great strategy. So today what we're going to talk through, we've already kind of knocked out introductions in terms of myself and the company that I represent. We're going to talk a little bit about what CRM is in general before we get into the details of the webinar. We're all here to talk about how and why leading construction firms are using a CRM and what they're getting out of it, the 5 most important things that they need to be doing in that CRM system. But I think before we get to that point, level setting on what a CRM system is and how it relates specifically to this industry is very important. We're going to do a couple polls throughout our webinar today, just so we can get some feedback from you guys in terms of, what role you play in the organization is important to sort of wrapping our heads around the context of a CRM system, and also what systems you guys might be using today, so we can draw some comparisons to those. So before we jump into too much detail here, we're going to start off with a quick poll. Lauren, if you could help me out. We're looking for information about your role. So we have 5 total choices here. If you can find the choice that is most closely encompassing the role that you play, then that'll help us. And what we're going to do is make sure that as we talk about the ways people use a CRM system in the AEC industry, we're able to relate that specifically to the roles of folks that we have on here. So I'm seeing some good information come through. I'm seeing a heavy dose of marketing, business development, sales folks. I'm seeing some project managers and project engineers, and it looks like about a quarter of the folks that we have on here are owners, principals, general managers, so folks that sit at the top of the organization. And these are all perfect roles for what we're going to be talking about today. So I appreciate that. As you can see from our results, a majority of the folks on here would actually be end users of Cosential. So the marketing folks, the business development and sales roles, those are what we would consider an end user of Cosential, somebody who uses Cosential on the daily to help drive their job and their success within their job. Now, of course, project managers have a big part of the relationship. So a lot of times we see project managers playing into that role of the seller doer, where you're also managing projects and executing on the practical side of your job. At the same time, you're still managing relationships, almost kind of an account manager to continue to make sure that your current clients are coming back to you. And then of course, the folks at the top of the organization who are interested in, what can we learn from a CRM system? What kind of data and analytics can we get out of our team adequately using a CRM system? So all great things that we'll be able to talk through here in our presentation. So thank you, Lauren. I appreciate that. And we're going to keep on rolling. So first,
you're very welcome.
First off, what is a CRM system? What is it historically as it relates to just the acronym CRM? And then how is CRM a little bit different for companies like yours? So historically, and as the acronym would lead you to believe, a CRM system is built to manage your customer relationships, right? So these are your relationships with the folks that you're selling your services to, your clients. I feel personally, and I think Cosential takes the approach that for a company like yours, that's a little bit short-sighted. Of course, the relationships with your clients and your customers are critical. I mean, they're driving your, they're driving your revenue. At the end of the day, the reason you've gotten to where you are as a firm is based on the relationships that you have with your clients. However, other relationships are also very important within your firm. So it's not just your customers, it's really any companies that you guys are interacting with, from vendors, suppliers, partners, all of those are important relationships. And the purpose of using a CRM system is so that you can track your interactions with a company or a person so that other folks in your organization are aware of what's going on. At the end of the day, the purpose of a CRM system should be to deliver the right information to the right person at the right time. And these relationships play out over many more dynamics than just your clients. So tracking, who you work with at a partner organization, who your point of contact is at a vendor that you work with, all of those things are important for the continuity of business, right? Your employees aren't going to be your employees for the rest of their lives. Someday they're going to leave, and when they do, you need to hope that you've got a good grip on how they did their job, how they were successful, who they worked with, when was the last time they talked to them, when are they supposed to talk to them again. That's what allows you to keep the ball moving forward when drastic changes hit your organization, is the collection of data to understand the context of how that person was doing their job and being successful. So a CRM system in your industry needs to be more than just tracking your relationships with your clients. It needs to be tracking your relationships really with any person that you're talking to who's not part of your company. Now, there's a lot of CRM products out there. I would venture to guess that 99% of them are not a fit for you and your company. And part of my goal today is to show you why that is. A typical CRM system, like a Salesforce or a Microsoft Dynamics, works off of the model that you see in front of you. You have a lead or a person who's shown some type of interest in the product that you sell. Maybe they've given you their information online. They've requested information about your product. They engage with the salesperson, you sell them the product, and you move on. You ship out the product, that sale is done, somebody else comes in and, picks up the pieces and does their part of the puzzle. But as a salesperson, you close the deal, you walk away. In this industry, and, it's a little bit different for a general contractor as it is for a subcontractor. We're going to talk about both use cases. But in general, the one big missing piece to most of these traditional CRM systems is the understanding of the importance of what happens within that project. So it's not just the fact that we closed the deal and sold the project, it's what happened in that project to help us continue to win more business. So as that project moves through the paces and you're using a project management tool or an ERP system to track the details around that project, all that information, when you use a tool like Cosential, is pushing those details back into the sales cycle so that you can leverage the data that you learn on those projects, the dates, the cost changes as people change their roles on those different projects. All that information goes back into your sales cycle so that you can leverage that data to automatically create resumes, project templates, full-blown proposals using Cosential or using your CRM system, which is tracking all that data. Now, for a subcontractor, it's a little bit different, right? Because a subcontractor isn't necessarily creating resumes and big full-blown marketing proposals to win business. And so for a subcontractor or a specialty type of subcontractor, they're leveraging Cosential so that they can find more relationships, get invited to bid more often, and have a way to send out those different bids, track where they go, because the more of that you do, the more projects you're going to win. And so understanding what relationships that you have, what work that you've already done for that company, what's in progress, the details of the work that you've done, that's what leads to more relationship and more leads and gets you invited into more conversations. So whether you're a subcontractor or a general contractor, your sales process is unique and it's different than what a typical CRM system can handle. Cosential, because we deeply understand this process, we have a way to deliver the software in a way that just feels comfortable for our users. I love Salesforce. I've used Salesforce for many years, and I should, because Salesforce was built for somebody like me. It was built for somebody who sells products and things. My customers, that's exactly what they say about Cosential, right? We love Cosential because it was built to do exactly what we do, and you guys just get it. So that leads us to our next poll, and this is something that we're going to use to drive the rest of our conversation. Are you currently using a CRM system? We have some different options, right? So yes, I'm using a branded CRM system, which means, I went out and I purchased a tool to specifically address CRM. There's also folks out there that are using Excel and Outlook and considering it part of their CRM platform. In reality, those are tools that are built to do other things that you can sometimes, sort of bend to make work for CRM, but they're not necessarily a CRM tool that you purchased. Some folks aren't using a tool at all, but instead they're using their project management tool to kick off workflows and keep people in the loop. And then some folks use nothing at all. We don't really think about, tracking who we're talking to, where they work, and what we're talking about, because at the end of the day, as long as we're winning deals, we don't care. So it looks like we've got a full range of folks doing different things, which I certainly appreciate. Half of the folks on the call, which is exciting to see, have bought into the hype, right? You've bought into the need for a CRM system, and so you've purchased something that has, put themselves out there as a CRM solution specifically to help you solve CRM problems. Looks like about a quarter of the people are using their project management tools to kick off workflows and keep people in the loop on how projects progress. I would guess that means there's probably not a lot of data about what got us to that project. And then, of course, Outlook and Excel is a great way to kind of hack together, the basics of a CRM system, being able to track data and interact with people through tools that you're already comfortable with. I can tell you from Cosential's point of view, this is what we like to see, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're using Outlook or Excel to manage a CRM system, you're not obviously doing traditional CRM. However, you're leveraging tools that show us that there's value in doing CRM right. And so Outlook and Excel are kind of motivation for Cosential. We've actually built a lot of our screens to replicate what an Excel spreadsheet looks like, specifically because we know that's what people are comfortable with. And it looks like a small percentage of folks are doing nothing, which is interesting to see, but not a surprise. I would have expected that number to be higher than 9%, frankly. We find a lot of green space in this market, a lot of folks that aren't really doing anything right now and are thinking about whether they should. So thrilled to see that the folks on here, have seen the value in what a CRM system promises. All right, so let's jump into the meat of why we're here. So we can talk about the 5 ways the right kind of CRM system is going to help you win more projects. So what we're going to talk about is how we can measure and analyze help us win more work, how we're capturing leads and rumors quickly and easily. At the end of the day, there's a lot of conversations happening out there. How are we capturing what's happening in those conversations so we can actually take action as a company? How are we categorizing project history so that we can win business faster and more efficiently with our marketing teams? Deeply mapping your network to understand who you know, where you know them, and how they might be interconnected to other people that you know. And then finally, a formalized go-no-go process, which can give you some quantitative results on what you're chasing and why you're chasing it, and help you take a little bit more caution in what kinds of projects that you chase. At the end of the day, we learn a lot about why we win and why we lose when we use a CRM system. And applying what we learned through that go-no-go process helps us make sure that the projects that we're bidding on and the work that we're trying to win is a good fit for us, not from our gut feeling, which is typically how people make these decisions, but actually from the real data that we've collected, over the course of using a system. So we're going to start with measuring and analyzing. When we talk about measuring and analyzing the data that we have in our CRM system, part of that is, where does our work come from? And when I say where, I mean things like location, geo, where are we doing our work? There's certain tools that are available within CRM systems that can help you with this. In Cosential, we have a file type that we don't call it, it's actually referred to this generally, it's a KML file. And these KML files are exportable so that you can use them with Google Earth. So you need to be using a system that gives you an easy way to be able to map where you guys are doing work geographically. So the KML file and the Google Earth integration with that are a fantastic way to be able to visualize where you're doing work, and you start to see trends. You start to see where work is centralized. You start to learn a lot about your customers simply by looking at it on a map. You're also wanting to understand which relationships that you have are opening the most doors to you and your firms. And we're measuring this. We're not, again, this isn't a gut feeling on, I like working with these guys, so we should do more work with them. This is, what relationships do we have that statistically and based on the math and the metrics actually help us win more business. So this is understanding, hit rates. When you partner with this particular architect on this particular type of job, how often do we win? It's understanding the ins and the outs of your competitive landscape. And when you partner with this company and you're competing with this company, we win 96% of the time. However, when we partner with this company and compete with this company, we lose 75% of the time. So it's understanding what relationships are going to open the most doors for you and your firm, and using metrics and analytics within the CRM system to be able to do that. It's also understanding what leads are converting. So this kind of comes back to the source of leads, like where are you getting your information from? Because at the end of the day, certain leads are going to convert better, faster, with a higher efficiency than other leads. And so if you're not tracking where every lead came from, then you're missing the boat on being able to analyze what lead sources you need to invest in and continue pointing people to. Guaranteed, if you guys are going to conferences, there are certain conferences that are feeding you or paying you back more so than other conferences. If we're not tracking those specifically, then yeah, we might identify that conference leads are good leads, but which conferences is probably a more important question. So very detailed analysis of lead sources, where a lead came from, so that we can track the success of that source. And when we find a source that's performing well, we invest, right? We spend more people, we hire more people to point to that particular, show or type of lead source. And then, of course, what types of projects are most profitable for us? A lot of folks that we work with do a lot of different kinds of work. Sometimes they're doing rehab work. Sometimes they're doing new business. Sometimes they're, working on small parts of a project. Sometimes they're taking on a full project from start to finish. And so it's basic categorization on the types of projects that you guys are taking on, comparing that to the types of projects in your pipeline, and understanding what to focus on. You may win a lot of a certain type of project, but you make such little margin on it that you'd rather pass up 10 of those projects so you can win one of these projects. So very cleanly tracking the categories of your project types. And you need to be using a system that can help you do that. So, if you're using a system where you have to customize every field that helps you identify what type of project this is, then you're having to do a lot more work than you should. If you're using a tool that's built for your kind of business, then pre-built categories should already exist on how to slice and dice a project so that we can look back in history and say these types of projects we tend to make the most money with. So if your system's not, purpose-built for your type of business, chances are this is something that you're going to have to manually do. It's a painful process to try to drive your own requirements within your CRM system. So the second portion is capturing leads. So, this goes back a little bit to what we talked about in terms of understanding where our leads are coming from so that we can do more of that. But this also, and sort of the spin I'm going to put on this, is more around the ease of capturing lead data, capturing lead information. So, you go to a conference and you meet 50 people, some of which are going to have projects for you to follow up on right away, some of which are, nice people that were nice to meet, but the chances of you finding work with them are very low. So the ability to capture leads at the time of the lead conversation is critical. At Cosential, we address this through mobile. We can also address it through our Outlook integration, but any CRM system that you're using needs to make it very easy to capture the lead information. So to very quickly and easily capture the details of the context of the conversation. Maybe it was a conversation you had at Starbucks with a person you haven't seen in 3 years, and they say, hey, I saw you're working with this company. We should really talk. We're doing a lot of work that you guys might be interested in. That all the way from an email that you receive that's an invitation to bid on something. There needs to be an easy way to capture that detail and actually put it into your system so that somebody can take action on it. So again, as I mentioned, Cosential has a mobile card reader application. This would be an example of a really easy way for a business developer to meet somebody out in the wild, get their information in the system, capture the context of the relationship, and then be off to the races. So you meet somebody at Starbucks, you go to a conference and meet 75 people at a booth. Either way, in order to get that information into your system as a new lead, you just take a picture of it with your phone, and that automatically routes those details to the individual who's responsible for following up on that particular lead. Of course, categorizing these leads is critical. Categorizing them both from the perspective of where they came from and sort of the lead source that we already talked about, but also categorizing them in what type of work. So any way that we can slice and dice this lead in terms of the type of work that it's pointing us to, where it came from, the better. So the more ways that we can slice and dice it, the more ways that we can look back in the future and truly understand, how these leads paid us and how these leads contributed to our current pipeline, the better. So the more ways that you can categorize a lead, the better. Now, some folks are also scoring leads. So you can score leads from a variety of different perspectives, right? A lot of times folks are using things like where they got the lead to drive the score. So, maybe a conference lead gets 10 points and a word of mouth lead gets 20 points or something like that. But really you need to be thinking about a lot more than just where the lead came from. You need to think about the type of company that lead came from. You need to think about the person that it came from, the role that person plays within that organization. Is this even a credible lead because it came from, a low-level person who, probably doesn't really know what this company is working on, or it came from an executive who, knows exactly what this company's initiatives are. So being able to apply a score and automate that score too is important. So that way, when things flow into your system, you can help your team prioritize what they chase based on scores. So, you might have a threshold to say, these types of salespeople only focus on our hottest leads. these types of salespeople, they're going to more develop a lead. So, we'll assign the leads that are less hot to them. Or it might be geographic, right? So lots of different ways you can score, but use a system that allows you to score that automatically and then route things around based on the score. And then of course capitalize, right? Use all this information, leverage the relationships that you get so that you can capitalize on these leads. And a lot of times capitalizing on the lead isn't as easy as it sounds, right? I can't remember the last time somebody on my sales team made a single phone call, got a hold of the person they were trying to reach, and learned all the information they needed to learn in that one phone call. Capitalizing on a lead means putting the effort behind a consistent approach. The first time you reach out to that person to follow up on a project that you talked about last week, they're not going to be in their office, right? They're going to be out and about. So you're leaving voicemails, you're sending emails. But if you truly want to capitalize on that, you're going to use a CRM system to track when did you reach out to them? What did you say when you reached out? What email did you send them? Because next week when I send them another email, I want to play off of what I sent them last week. So capturing all the information about your pursuit on that lead is what allows you to capitalize on it by learning, how that person wants to communicate with you. You might find that they ignore your emails all day, but the first time you give them a phone call, you strike gold and you get the conversation you were looking for. Sometimes people are going to ignore your emails, they're going to ignore your phone calls, but you shoot them a LinkedIn message and voila, they respond to you 10 minutes later. So every prospect that you're talking to out there has their own preferences on how they communicate with somebody like yourself. Make sure that you give them every option to engage with you by engaging them through different channels. And if you truly want to capitalize on that lead, make it a consistent effort that you can repeat. Now, integrations are a very important part of any CRM system. We inserted this slide here specifically because it touches a couple different things that I'm going to be talking about. The first is around lead services. So as it relates to lead management, a lot of folks subscribe to Dodge or IMD, CMD, IIR. There's a ton of different services that provide, public bid requests, government jobs, things like that. Highly encourage you to choose a CRM system that's familiar with those different lead services and can give you an integration. It's a lot more efficient when your salesperson wakes up in the morning and has all the leads from Dodge already teed up assigned to them in Cosential. That allows them to literally come in and smile and dial, right? That allows them to come in and get on the phone, start calling in to these leads, start trying to learn more information about these leads so that they can put together, a good looking bid or a good looking proposal and actually go out and win you business. So the ability to integrate into any tool is important, but specifically, a CRM system that understands the types of leads that you guys receive is something that's important. But, of course, there's integrations all over the ecosystem of a CRM system and Cosential that drive a lot of value. If you orient your eyes to the bottom left to that pink gear with the financial system is a critical integration that a CRM needs to be able to provide. Ideally, a bidirectional integration with your financial system, simply because a lot of the information in your CRM system is going to be similar, if not the same, as your financial system. Those tools need to be able to talk back and forth to make sure that one's not going in a separate direction, right? Your CRM system needs to adequately reflect what your financial system has and vice versa. So when information is changed in one system, it's updated in the other, and folks aren't forced to update two different systems whenever they get one new piece of information. So that financial system integration is going to be kind of the next big picture item that we talk about. And that really comes in the form of your project history. So this is a critical piece to a CRM system that's built for the AEC industry. If this piece is missing from your CRM vendor, or if this is something that they're not talking actively about, pump the brakes because you have a problem. As we mentioned, the primary goal of marketers in the industry is to work on and deliver phenomenal proposals, beautiful documents that encapsulate the, the experience and the, the nature of the firm in a efficient and effective way. If your CRM provider is not familiar with how your marketer is going to use the system, you have a problem. And I can tell you, if you're talking to, Salesforce, Sugar CRM, those guys don't get it. They don't understand the importance of the project history. A lot of our customers are using integrations to bring this information in. So instead of having to, do your own analysis on every project you perform on, let's pull the information real time from the system that already has it. So all the project details, from the time a project begun to when it finished, to who worked on it, to how the costs changed over the course of the project, all critical information for a marketer needs to be updated automatically in Cosential or in your CRM system from the source of truth. In this case, the source of truth being your financial system or your project management tool, something like that. Doing so properly, adequately categorizing your project history is critical, because most of a marketer's job is around pattern matching. It's around understanding, what have we done that looks like this. The better you can do that, the more effective you are in your proposals, the more effective you are in your resumes. It's all about the pattern match and finding projects and people that meet this very specific criteria. And owners, they make this a challenge, right? They don't ask you the same questions in the same way. One owner might ask you for, projects that have, X percentage of change orders. Others might ask you for actual dollar figures for change orders. We know that you're going to be thrown these different variations of the same question. So your CRM system needs to understand how you look at projects and how you categorize projects in a very deep way, so that it's easy for you to find the projects that meet the specific criteria that you're trying to match to. So of course that comes in the form of market sectors, right? What type of work are we doing from, is this a commercial job? Is this a healthcare job? And it's not always black and white, right? There's not always one single market sector. So you might have a market sector and 3 sub-market sectors. So use a system that allows you to get very deep and detailed into how you categorize a potential project. The construction type, right? Was this a design build project? All of these types of different categorizations are going to help you make sure that you're finding the right projects that meet the criteria. And again, this is information that's coming from the system of truth, from the source of truth. This isn't off the top of a project manager's head. So the marketer who gets this information delivered to them within their CRM system has the confidence to move forward with that data without having to second guess it and check it against 3 different databases to make sure it's right. Project managers love to, from the hip, let you know all the details of a project. And man, I'll tell you, there's a lot of information in their head. 90% of it might come out correct, but if you're putting that 10% that they were wrong about onto a proposal, you're putting yourself at risk of losing that project. What type of contract was it? And again, sub-markets. So taking the depth of everything you know about that project, slicing and dicing it in a million ways so that you can help foresee what kind of questions that you're going to be asked about this project early on. The goal of using Cosential to manage these projects is we understand what types of questions that you're going to be asked about these projects in the future. So we proactively deliver you the answer before you ever have to ask Cosential for the answer. Mapping your network. This part's critical. This kind of goes back to a little bit of what we talked about in the very beginning part of our presentation as it relates to, what is a CRM system for this market? Because it's more than just your clients, right? It's mapping all the different interactions that you have, and this is something that's more complex for a company like you guys. The ecosystem that you work with every single day has more complexity and curiosity than, the typical retailer or the typical technology company. You're dealing with suppliers, you're dealing with partners, You're dealing with your personnel and all of their interesting details. So, a typical organization, a typical retail company might look something like this. Their CRM system touches their technical staff, their sales, their account management team, and their operations. For you guys, there's more though. What about all the integrations that you have to pump into your CRM system so that you have the right data in the right place, coming from the right source of truth? How's your marketing team going to leverage your CRM system to manage images, right? All the project images that need to be associated to the proper projects. The marketing campaigns and budgeting, right? In a typical CRM system, this marketing campaigns and budgeting is probably like the #1 use case for the marketing users, but not in this industry. In this industry, it's a tiny little bubble because it's just a piece of the puzzle that marketing has to figure out, right? Marketing's also interested in customer sat. So are the projects that we're doing for people, making a good impact? So with all these different responsibilities, they need to be able to manage all of this in one single place. If it were only this easy, we'd all smile, but it's not, Add in their partnerships and suppliers, subcontractors, different associations people are a part of, different registrations that they have to keep current. All this complexity is built specifically for a CRM system to help put the right data in the right person's hands at the right time so that they can jump in and do their job effectively. And that goes all the way down to the details of notifying the employee and the HR manager when an important registration is 30 days away from expiring, right? So it's understanding how a CRM system can deeply engage with your process, understand what's important for a general contractor and for a subcontractor, for anybody in the construction business, and then give you tools to automate those processes and to make them easier. Another part of mapping your network is understanding how to communicate with your network. So email marketing, think of this as the mentality of sort of the one-to-many email, right? You need to categorize the people in your network or map the people in your network so that you can communicate with them in a way that's meaningful to them. This comes from their titles, right? Where they are in the world, so their geos. It also comes from the type of company that they work for. But it also gets down into the details of things like, what does this person like to do when they're not at work? Do they like to golf? Do they have a family? Because it's those kind of relationship metrics that help us communicate with somebody the right way. There's a lot of interest in the market right now around LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn's an awesome tool, but you don't use LinkedIn just to see where somebody works right now and how long they've worked there. That's part of it, but you're also using LinkedIn to see where they went to school, what kind of things they're interested in, because every bit of information that you learn about your prospect and your contact that you're trying to talk to is a door into their communication, right? Leveraging things that you find that are common so that you can communicate with them in a way that makes sense. So being able to categorize and say, show me every contact in my system that likes to golf, has a family, lives in Texas, and is a senior director or above at their firm. Let's send them all this email. So being able to slice and dice your customer base, the contacts in your CRM system, and being able to communicate with them in a way that's meaningful to them is another big part of CRM that the right CRM system will help you do in an easy way, right? This shouldn't be painful. This shouldn't be, once a year, our sales staff sending a blind email to marketing with a list of names of people that they want to get communication, right? There's so much more detail that can go into that process. You need a tool that helps you get to that level of detail without it being painful for you or for your end users. And finally, we're going to talk about the GoNoGo process. So the GoNoGo process is a critical part of your sales process that some folks don't do at all, and some folks do in a very conscious, serious way. So just the idea of the GoNoGo process, is the mentality of understanding, here's what we know about this project. Is it even worth our time to chase it? Is it a fit for us in the skill set that we offer? Could we actually make money with a project like this? So using a GoNoGo, and what we typically find with firms is their GoNoGo process is one of those kind of gut feeling things. It's one of those, well, we tend to do a little bit better in these types of projects, so let's chase that. A lot of times when folks lose a project, they don't really have a postmortem process, right? They don't have a way to understand what was the determining factor that made us lose that. Was it that we didn't have the right people on staff? Was it that we didn't have the right projects to tee up? Or did we just not have a good relationship with the owner that we were bidding to? So, first there needs to be some sort of process around the postmortem or understanding why we lost. A lot of times we're gathering that information through a bunch of informal conversations. We're making a lot of assumptions, and there's no formal record of, what really happened here. Again, part of the goal of using a CRM system is to help you identify what's working so that we can do more of that and step on the gas in those areas, and also to help us identify what's not working so that we can start to pull away from those things or not spend as many resources or money, doing those things that aren't working as well. So, don't go with your gut, collect the information so you know better. So the GoNoGo process is something that's built within your CRM system, and it's an automated process to help you tee up the right questions to understand if you should really proceed with this project that you're pursuing at the moment. So that comes with qualifying data points. So these are typically very objective types of things. Is this project funded? Yes or no? Pretty objective. But there's also subjective. Is our company values aligned with this company's values, right? Things like that are a little bit more subjective. So this is an ability to mix both, the objective facts and details along with kind of our gut feeling and be able to give it a formal score. Obviously, the goal of this is to help you have a more educated decision on what you should chase in the future based on what we've learned from the past. And a lot of this can be executed with the mentality of approvals. So, you might complete a GoNoGo form that gives you a particular score. If your score is between, and of course this is just an example, if your score is between 0 and 20, this is a no-go. We're not going to pursue this project. However, if the score is between 20 and 50, we can pursue only with, Tom's approval. So automatically we route approval to Tom. Tom reviews the GoNoGo and gives us his green light or red light based on his feelings. And then you may say over 50, everything's a go. We don't need to ask permission. Or anywhere in between, right? It doesn't have to be black and white, a yes or a no. There could be a review process. So maybe you have a small group of executives who meets once a month, and anything that has a score between 30 and 50, they're going to review in that meeting and give us the green light or red light, according to a team's approach. These are just some examples for some GoNoGo processes that some of our customers are using. So it's an ability to customize whatever questions that you see fit, and then apply a score. So that score can drive an overall score for that particular engagement. So no reason to bore you guys with the details and talk you through all the words on the screen, but just some examples of questions that current clients ask within their GoNoGo process. And then here's an example of what the form actually looks like. So you have the questions that you're asked to provide as a salesperson. As you answer these questions, it contributes to a score up there in the top right. And then based on that overall score is how we route the deal. So whether we need to get approval or whether we're allowed to move forward with the proposal without approval. So again, the GoNoGo process is important to truly learning from your past mistakes and wins and being able to apply some of that. So as you're categorizing projects, as you're doing all of these steps prior to step 5, you're using that information to drive your GoNoGo process, right? You're learning what category of projects do we perform best in? what types of projects do we make the most money in? And you're using those different data points to inform the questions that you ask up front on whether we should really chase these projects or not. So the whole thing comes full circle, right? If you're doing CRM right, as you're collecting information, as you're categorizing your pursuits and your projects, you're leveraging and using that data to help you make smarter decisions in the future, thus increasing your hit rates, right? Winning more of what you bid, but also bidding less, right? Not bidding and wasting your time on the projects that either aren't a good fit for you or that you're not profitable on. So bid less with less resources, but win a higher percentage of what you do bid. All about the ROI of adequately and accurately using a CRM system. So I think that takes us to the end of the slides in the presentation. I appreciate you guys hanging in. I know we have a ton of questions that I've seen pop up. Lauren, would you be willing to help me manage some of these questions, and you can help me deliver some questions and I can give you some answers?
Sure, absolutely. And thank you, Andy, for an excellent presentation. I hope everyone online got a lot out of that. I know I did, so good stuff. So folks, you still have time to type in any questions in your questions box at the right of GoToWebinar if you're interested. And as a reminder, please stick around for another 10 minutes or so, and we'll announce the winner of the $100 Amazon gift card. And with that, I will go ahead and start getting into these questions. So let's go with the question we have about time frame. What is the expected time frame it takes to get a CRM fully implemented and see the value in it?
Yeah, great question. So it depends on what kind of CRM system you buy. Cosential offers a cloud-based tool, which means all you need in order to access it is a connection to the internet. Other tools that you can purchase are referred to as more like on-premise tools, where you actually have to install software and set it up. So if you're using a cloud-based tool, then you can literally log in on your very first day and start using that cloud-based tool. If you're using an on-premise type of tool where you have to download and set the software up, then your lead time will be a little bit longer than that. So there's nothing stopping an end user from using their cloud-based CRM system on day one. On day one, they can start adding information in, they can start adding leads to the system, they can start tracking who they're talking to and when they need to call them back. Nothing restricting them from using, as a traditional CRM system. Who am I talking to? What did we talk about? When do we need to talk again? However, there is a process to bring in all of the past data from the CRM, from other tools that you might be using. You get your customers, your contacts, your companies all loaded into the system. That shouldn't take more than a month or so, just depending on the current state of your data, right? If your data is a mess, you want to take the time up front to get your data clean and accurate before you bring it into your CRM system. So the cleaner and more accurate you want your data to be, the more time that can take. But really that should be the biggest determination of the time to value is your own data. So in most cases, clients are their own sort of bottleneck just based on the data that they want to load into the system. The rest of the setup, the configuration and the training are things that can happen in a matter of days. So, if you have clean data and you get that data over to your CRM provider early, then you can be in the system with all of your data configured, in a handful of weeks. If you have incredibly dirty data or, you're not confident that your data is accurate and you got a whole bunch of duplicates, then your time to value is going to be a lot longer because you want to take the time up front to really get that stuff right before you put it in the system.
Okay, great. Thanks, Andy. And then another question that makes sense to me, because I'm sure a lot of people just manage their contacts in various different ways, whether it's on paper or sometimes in just their inbox. So what's the difference between managing your contacts in a project management tool versus a CRM?
Yeah, absolutely. So typically a project management tool is picking up information post-sale. So it's once we've won that project and we're moving forward with the actual execution of the project, the people you engage with during the actual project portion of the work that you do are typically not the same people that you're engaging with pre-sale. So the difference in a CRM system is going to be, it's all about what happens up until the point that we sell the project. So it's really what happens before the project management system kicks in, because what we're trying to learn from the CRM system is where did this stuff come from and how can we get more of it? And so you're typically tracking things, you know, I've yet to meet a construction company, you know, that doesn't have a significant lead time to a significant project. So it's what happens for the 3 years before that project actually awards somebody as a winner. You know, it's the relationships that happen, the meetings that you have, the information that you gather during those early phase of the project that really position you as the right partner and the right vendor to come in there and be successful with the project. So it's really everything that leads up to the project that the project management suite's typically not collecting. Good question. Thanks, Lauren.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for the great response. We have another really good question about owners in their role in the CRM, and the question is, our owner has refused to bring on any type of system that he can't control or own the data to. How does Cosential or most CRMs address this fear of the cloud?
Sure, great question. And the question that we answer all the time, because at the end of the day, you know, cloud technology is a little bit newer. So I can tell you Cosential was built to spec for government contractors. So from a IT security and accessibility to data, we didn't have an option. You know, we had to build this to spec for contractors that work with the government, and the government has very strict rules about what a cloud provider like us must provide in order to, you know, be considered safe by the government. Part of that is we have to own our own servers. So we don't lease servers from AWS or, you know, other server providers. We have to own our own servers because that gives us the ability to guarantee that we have access and know where the data is 100% of the time. For example, you know, one of the rules if you're a government contractor is you have to be able to guarantee that your data can't leave the United States. If you're, you know, using AWS or another tool, then, and I apologize, AWS, Amazon Web Services. So if you're hosting your service, your servers, and you're leasing your servers from another company, you can't guarantee that that information doesn't leave the US. But if you own your own servers like we do, then you can make that guarantee. So part of it is that. So part of it's just the way we're built. It's also, a lot of folks just need the extra confidence that, you know, the cloud, quote unquote, is real. And so for customers who tend to be a little bit more apprehensive about going into the cloud, we do regular data backups on physical disks. So, you know, once a month, once a quarter, once a year, whatever, you know, makes that customer feel better, we're able to export their data, all of their data, 100% of their data, put it on a disk, send that disk to their office. So if there's any sort of fear of not being able to get to their data, you know, they have it right there in their hands. Now, as a SaaS provider, we also provide some other safeguards. Like, for example, we have multiple data centers where we replicate the information from data center to data center. So if, you know, an explosion happens in our data center in the east, our data center in the west is built to automatically pick up the weight from the lost server, not lose any information. So that information is replicated across 3 different disparate locations. And I think most SaaS providers offer that same type of assurance.
Okay, great, thank you. And we have a bunch of questions coming in with regard to syncing and integration with other existing systems. So I might batch some of those together. So will Cosential sync with Outlook? What about Star Builder, Procore? Basically, if you could speak to a little bit of the integrations with existing systems, and then also a follow-up question to that is, what is the follow-up needed from everyone planning to use it? You know, would it be that everyone needs to enter the data to make the CRM useful to everyone?
Yeah, good call. Yep. So integrations in general are one of the stronger suits of Cosential historically. As a early company in this space, we differentiated ourselves with our vast knowledge of other systems that people are using and how to tie those together. So it's kind of been our secret sauce, if you will, to integrate into the right other systems and do it in an easy way. So with that in mind, we've yet to meet a AEC leveraged technology that we can't have some level of integration with. Now, of course, there's different ways to integrate with different tools based on what your actual business goal is. You know, a lot of prospects are sort of conditioned to come in and say, hey, I need an integration with every single tool we use. So technically, we have the ability to integrate with all those tools. What we're more interested in is what's the business value of that integration? Are we saving somebody time? Are we you know, making sure information doesn't slip through the cracks? Like, what's our business goal of the integration? And if there's a business goal, we can facilitate the integration. So for Cosential specifically, there's only two things that we look for to know if we can integrate. And really, both of those two things are based on what type of software it is that we're integrating with. So an on-premise tool or something that's actually set up on your servers, as long as it's SQL-based, Cosential can facilitate an integration. Any web-based tool or anything that may not be SQL-based, as long as there's an API available, we can integrate. So Cosential has developed a very robust API, which allows us to talk to other web-based tools and push and pull information from those tools. We offer that at no cost for our customers to use. So if you have the skill set on your team, you can use our API and create integrations with any other tool that you want to at no cost at all, or you can contract that work to Cosential and we can create the integration with our API, which does come with a nominal fee, but just based on time and materials. You know, we're not trying to bake in profit margins on integrations. Some of the more common integrations that we see are with ERP and accounting systems so that we can bring in project data. For Cosential, we have strategic partnerships and strategic integrations with 3 different customers or 3 different vendors right now. On the construction side, they are Viewpoint, so Vista by Viewpoint, and all the tools that Viewpoint sells have integrations with Cosential that are pre-built. We're also a strategic partner of Procores. So if you're using Procore, you can automatically take an opportunity from Cosential, send it into Procore as a new project, and send over all the detail from that. So those are our strategic partners. We also have a strategic partner in the A&E space called BST. Any other tool aside from those 3 strategic partners are also tools that we can integrate with, but we typically integrate with them on our own. So the difference in our 3 strategic partners versus any other integration that we do is when we're integrating with a strategic partner, we have the dev teams on both sides that are working towards that integration. If it's not one of those 3, then it's typically just Cosential who's working on that integration, which means we can hit, we can hit roadblocks. Typically, those roadblocks are easy to come down, but it's things like, CMIC, for example, makes their clients pay a fee if they want to expose their information to integrate into another system. So sometimes the other system will have their own sort of rules on how to integrate with their system. However, Cosential is completely open. We have no hard lines that we don't or won't integrate into a tool. Almost always we can find a way to plug in and integrate the data. Every single vendor that you mentioned in your question, Lauren, are integrations that we've done in the past.
Okay, very good. That's excellent to know, and we can definitely follow up with anyone individually if they have questions about particular things or missed anything that Andy just said there. We're sharing, again, a recording of the presentation with everyone here in the audience. For those that do have to hop off at 2, I'll go ahead and announce the winner of the contest for the Amazon gift card, and then we'll address maybe 1 or 2 more questions for those folks who want to stick around. So without further ado, we have chosen a winner, and it's Mandy from Marksman General Contractors. Congratulations, Mandy, and we will be sure to send you an email with that gift card. So thanks for listening. And then I'll go ahead and just segue right into some questions that we have here. And it has to do with duplication. What is the best way for handling a duplicate or related information in a PM tool versus a CRM tool? What's the best practice based on your experience?
Yep, so CRM systems are typically pre-built to understand the pain of the duplication process. And so most CRM systems are going to come with tools to help you dedupe. Cosential, for example, has areas within our administration that, we run full dupe checks. So you can choose, companies or contacts and then run a dupe check, and it brings back and shows you anything that might be perceived as a duplicate because the name's an exact match or the email's an exact match. And then you're able to merge those through the CRM system. A project management tool is typically not going to have that same level of flexibility because the project management tools are typically not built to, I guess they're not purpose-built for people, for contacts. And so most project management tools are not going to come out of the box with deduplication types of tools built into them. I'd guess there's some of them that are, but the deduplication process for most of those PM types of tools is going to be to export your data, clean it up on a spreadsheet, and then re-import and override it, which is a bit of a painful process, especially if you're doing that, once every 6 months, once every year. So a typical CRM system should have tools built into it to help you identify potential duplicates and then merge those duplicates. And most importantly, and don't forget this part, without losing information, right? When we merge information, we need to make sure we keep the old information too, because we may need that later. So when we merge things, we don't just delete and junk the rest of it. That stuff needs to exist somewhere else. So most CRM tools will have, purpose-built tools for that.
Okay, excellent. That's really good. And then we'll go ahead and ask the question that we feel like you might be able to address, and again, follow up with anyone who wants to know. But what is the approximate cost, license or seat price? What are the packages for Cosential?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good. So we like to keep it very simple. It's typically not something that's going to not break the bank. We don't shy away from the pricing conversations. So with Cosential, you have two components to your price. You have a seat cost that recurs annually. So every year you're going to pay for your the people who you want on Cosential to be able to leverage Cosential. We have 3 different types of seats at 3 different costs. We have a full user who's typically like your administrator or your marketer. So this is a person who, they're using Cosential to create resumes, to create proposals. They're a full user, and those cost $95 per user per month. We also have a sales user who's more of the CRM user. And so that, that person is tracking leads and opportunities. They're using reminders to follow up on things. They're tracking the details of the projects that they're chasing. Those users cost $55 per user per month. And then we also have executive or kind of the senior role within your organization. They want to see everything. They want to have a dashboard. They want to run reports and be able to see the details, but they typically don't desire to actually push buttons and make changes. So for those users, we have a read-only license, which is $25 per month per user. And so your annual cost with Cosential is simply a sum of those 3 different user types and how many users at each type that you have. And so that's the renewing cost of Cosential. When you first get started, there's some light implementation and training costs up front. Typically nothing very painful. We're not talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're not even talking tens and twenties of thousands of dollars, but that money goes towards us getting your system set up with you, getting your team trained. That money is also going to go towards any integrations that you're paying for. On average, customers typically pay in the ballpark of $2,000 to $6,000 for the implementation, training, and integrations portion of Cosential. That piece depends a little bit more on exactly what you're trying to accomplish and which integrations that you need, but on average, typically is not going over $5,000–6,000 up front. So that's all the costs as it relates to Cosential. There's no maintenance fees or hidden things. It's all just the licenses that you're using, and the upfront cost to get started.
Okay, great. Thanks, Andy. We'll take one more question and then we'll wrap it up so let everyone get on with their afternoon. But the question we have here is sometimes we take work as subcontractors and sometimes as construction managers, and therefore our clients are quite diversified and sometimes need to be treated or categorized differently. How does Cosential help with tracking and categorizing customers that interact with us differently?
That's a great question. We have a great way to do that. I wish I could push a button and show you guys my Cosential right now so I could show you how we do it. But within every company record, we have different ways to categorize that company in terms of the type of work that they do. And what you'll find is you have multiple customers that meet several of those different definitions, right? Sometimes you have a company that you work with who is your client one day and your competitor the next and your partner the next. So being able to apply multiple company types to any company record is one important piece, but also having a review process when your team engages so that it's clear whenever they engage what type of relationship that you have with that firm, understanding the notes. You know, if your folks aren't willing to do the research up front to be able to read about what type of relationship you have with that firm, then it's irrelevant what information you collect. So if you're going to go to the effort of collecting all this information and categorizing this stuff, you know, your team needs to leverage that information. So before they get on the phone with that customer, they need to see within the system what type of relationship we have and what different roles has this customer or company played with us in the past, so that you can quickly identify, you know, what's this situation, because it may be a matter of a different person that we talk to if it's this type of relationship versus this. So it's leveraging all that categorization that we do and having the context so that when you make a phone call or you show up to a meeting, you understand the context of your relationship with that firm. And the purpose of the company record in Cosential is to understand your entire relationship with that company, from in what context do we work with them, to who do we know, to what projects have we done in the past, and on those projects, what roles have they played. So all that information is present in one place so that the salesperson or, you know, whoever's having that conversation can do a little research before they get on the phone and understand the situation that they're walking in on.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Andy. And then we had a question about whether there will be a trial or demo available for Cosential, and we'll go ahead and follow up with that individual directly, and definitely everyone will receive follow-up information for how to get more information about Cosential. So without further ado, I will go ahead and say thank you all for the wonderful discussion today. We had some really great questions, and thanks, Andy, for providing insightful answers. If we're not able to get to your question, Cosential will follow up with you after this webinar. And again, congratulations to our Amazon gift card winner. You'll receive it by email. And thank you again, Cosential, for sponsoring this webinar for construction executives. And if you could please take a moment to visit constructionexec.com and subscribe to our magazine, Construction Executive, if you haven't done so already. Check out the links on the page to interact with us on social media, and check out our upcoming webinars at webinars.constructionexec.com. Also, as soon as your screen closes, please take a moment to complete the short survey that will appear, and your feedback is very valuable to us. Again, thank you, and you may now disconnect.